Thank you for buying Eurolites, the UK's market-leading headlamp adapter. These videos have been put together to help you use the instructions to make sure you fit your Eurolites correctly and remain 100% safe and legal when driving in Europe. Upon opening the package, you will find inside a pair of Eurolites adapters and an instruction sheet. The first thing we need to do is to open out the instruction sheet to the front page. Please don't be daunted by this instruction sheet. Although there is a lot of information on here, you are only interested in finding your particular vehicle and the reference diagram for how to fit the adapters. The way we use this sheet is to look down the list and find your car. If for any reason your car is not on this list, then please refer to the flow chart in the top corner, which will explain how to find out where to fit your adapters for your particular vehicle. So let us take in point here the vehicle on my left, which is an MG ZR. If we now zoom into the sheet, what we will find is when you go down to the MG ZR, it comes out as fitting diagram number 2. At that point, you turn the sheet over, go down the list of fitting diagrams here, and you will find fitting diagram number 2 detailed here. The information on this diagram, first of all, is not designed to look like your headlamp. It is purely a schematic diagram, and throughout these instructions we refer to the dipped headlamp bulb as the reference point for fitting the adapters. Within this diagram you will see there is a little yellow circle, and that represents your dipped headlamp bulb. If you like to think of it as a clock face, the headlamp bulb is in the middle of the clock face, and the adapter, as an example on this particular vehicle, is fitted in the 7 o'clock position. The other thing to be aware of with these diagrams is you have 2 parts to the component. The first side here is DS, meaning the driver's side headlamp. The second side is PS, meaning the passenger side headlamp. So, having identified the vehicle as an MG ZR and that it is fitting diagram number 2, and we now know that the adapter fits in the 7 o'clock position, we now need to apply it to the vehicle's headlights. As explained in the instructions, we always refer to the dipped headlamp bulb as the reference point, so the first thing to do is to switch on the vehicle's headlamps and find out which one is the dipped bulb. To be fair, in almost all cars, the dipped headlamp unit will be the outer section of the headlamp, but there are exceptions, so please do check on the headlamp by switching it on. We've now identified this outer bulb here as the dipped headlamp unit. Obviously we ignore the side light, and often you need to be aware that the dipped headlamp bulb will be hidden behind a silver cap or shroud, as is the case with this vehicle. Now, as we found from the instructions, we're going to fit in the 7 o'clock position down in this bottom corner. So the first thing we need to do is to leave the headlamps on to warm up so the adapter will stick securely to the headlight, and just give the headlamp a quick rub to remove any dust or dirt residue. Then switch off your headlights so that you don't blind yourself as you go to apply the adapter. Now what you'll notice on a lot of vehicles, and this one included, that actually they only use the round part of the adapter, not the complete unit. So in this case, the easiest way to separate them, because the material is quite robust, is to hold the adapter and the wing either side of the join line in the centre and just push them past each other, and that will cleanly tear out the circular part of the adapter. Once the adapter, the circular section is removed, as being used in this case, just flex the back of the adapter and you'll see there's a crack line through the release paper behind the adhesive. Please peel the release paper from this crack line, it'll avoid any damage to the adhesive layer below. We then kneel directly in front of the car, directly in front of the headlamp at eye level, because that's how our diagrams are drawn, and we apply the adapter, in this case in the 7 o'clock position on the headlamp, and then press it firmly around the outer edge to ensure it's securely affixed to the headlamp. A couple of things that often we get asked in this situation. The most common question is, why on earth am I fitting the adapter in this bottom sort of left position here, when actually all the light's going to be going across the road up and to the right of me? The answer is that it's actually the reflector unit at the back of the headlamp that creates the headlamp beam pattern, and therefore it's actually a mirror. So even though you're trying to stop light going up and away in that direction, actually you fit the adapter down and in this direction. Another thing we get often asked is, do the headlamps use opposite fitting positions? And the answer is generally, although there are exceptions, so please do check your diagram, generally no. So if it fits in this bottom left corner, the 7 o'clock position as we called it earlier, on this headlamp, it will also fit in the 7 o'clock position on the other headlamp. One further question we get asked is, exactly how accurately does the adapter have to go on, because it's quite difficult to look at the diagram and see that in relation to your headlamp. As long as the adapter is on within, say, around about a 10mm variance in either direction, that will be absolutely fine. You will remove enough of the dazzle causing part of the beam to ensure you're still safe and legal in Europe. That completes the fitting instruction for this vehicle. Within the car list on the sheet, you will see against some vehicles in red writing, we either say standard headlamps or projector and xenon headlamps. This video explains the difference between the two. This is a standard headlamp module, and what we mean by that is the headlamp unit, when you look inside, will have a silver cupped reflector, and in the centre of it you will find the headlamp bulb itself. And sometimes, to be aware, that headlamp bulb will be covered by a little cap or shroud. But ultimately, for a standard or halogen headlamp module, you've got a cupped reflector with a small bulb set in the centre of it. By contrast, the headlamp module on this vehicle is what we call a projector or xenon headlamp. And what that looks like, instead of the cupped reflector and bulb, is you have this spotlight, almost projector light, that sits behind the clear headlamp glass. It's very distinctive, and when you switch it on, you'll see it looks like the sort of spotlight you might expect in a kitchen and so on. So these are projector and xenon headlamps. They are also known within the trade as HID or high intensity discharge headlamps. So you should be able to work out which one of the two headlamp sorts you have for your vehicle. Within our instructions, we also make reference to what we call traditional headlamps with line patterns in the glass. Now, to be fair, these units have gradually been phased out since the late 1990s, but there are still a few cars around that use them. If you go through the car list in the instruction sheet, if your vehicle is listed there, you will find a dedicated instruction and fitting drawing for it. However, we also refer a number of cars to what we call diagram 150. Now, this features what we call a sloping baseline within the light pattern. This is best viewed with the light switched on. What you will find then in this bottom quadrant here is that you've got a typical sort of wedge-shaped pattern within the line patterns, and at the bottom of it is the sloping baseline. Depending on the size of the headlamp unit, this one's quite small, being on an MG, you will actually end up just using the round part of the adapter, which you will fit in the 9 o'clock position, like so. On larger headlamps, particularly rectangular units, you will find the sloping baseline is considerably longer, and in that case, you would use the full headlamp adapter as so. One thing to be aware of is these units, the round ones I'm talking about here as per this MG, are what we call sealed beam units. Over the years, as they've aged, a number of these headlamps, of course, have had to be replaced. In doing so, a lot of the modern sealed beam units don't actually show the sloping baseline within the headlamp pattern. This does not matter because they all follow the same 9 o'clock fitting position for the small round part of the adapter. And that will definitely cover you off for these type of sealed beam units that are used traditionally on older sports cars. Okay, so we're now back from our trip to Europe and we want to take the headlamp adapters off our lights. First thing to do is always remove your adapters immediately upon your return to the UK. The easiest way to do this is to switch on your headlamps first for a couple of minutes, and what that will do is it will allow the warmth in the headlamp just to soften the adhesive up to assist its removal from the headlamp. As you peel the adapter from the headlamp, what you generally tend to find is the adapter PVC will come away first and you'll be left with a ring of adhesive behind. Don't worry about that. It is carried on a thin carrier film and is very easily removed. Just get your fingernail under the edge and drag the adhesive carrier film from the light as a separate operation. You'll then find the light is virtually clear of any adhesive, and if there is a little residue, just get some hot soapy water, wash it round and it'll dissolve away. If there are the odd stubborn residue, you can use methylated spirits. Please do not use white spirit as it can attack the modern polycarbonate headlamps. And also being aware that these headlamps are polycarbonate, please no sharp blades or anything like that that could scratch your headlamp. And that's it, your car is now fully road legal back for the UK.